I kind of had a dream that I would get some primer paint on the inside of the boat this week so I could kind of see what I had left to do sanding. It's so hard to tell with all these different colors I have. But due to lots of issues and cold weather mainly, it didn't happen. So I'm just going to show you what did happen, which is a bunch of random odds and ends. So one of the things I did was I scrubbed the boat with soap and water first time. Needed it terribly. I'm under the trees. I get tree dirt and I get leaves. It's just I got all the dust from sanding, and it was gross. So I cleaned it out really well, hosed out the bilges, just worked on it for a little while, and it's just so much nicer to work in a clean boat. Although it's probably not clean, it's at least hose and soap and water clean. And looking at this clip, I realized that I haven't shown the making of the anchor pulpit or anything about the anchor pulpit. So now I'm going to go backwards and show a couple of clips on how the anchor pulpit was put together. It's time to start thinking about the anchor pulpit. I don't really want an anchor pulpit because I don't envision hanging an anchor out here all the time. Like my old wooden boat, Grand Travail, it had a big heavy anchor and the pulpit was worth its weight in gold. And on the houseboat, all we do with it is anchor, and it's kind of awkward to jump from driving to anchoring. But in this little boat, the only time I see anchoring is in a pretty day, throw out an anchor at the lake. I think this would be more importantly a good mount for the trolling motor. It's got this recess in here. I think I'm just going to fill this with wood and fiberglass. They need to be sloped from 1.5 to 3/4, and then I think I'm going to cut them flush with the front of the boat and probably fill this in somewhat, maybe make a curve, or maybe cut it back here. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm going to start cutting a bunch of these out of anything that won't rot, like good cypress, the mahoganies, or some teak scraps. I'll use up all my scraps and glue them together. And it's all going to be glassed in, so really it's just a mold for the glass. And then I'm going to come under here and grind all this gel coat off because it's kind of cracked up. And probably lay a layer of glass under it before I even start. So I got me a little assortment of boards here to make the plug. I got some good cypress, I got some teak, and I got some mahogany. It's all good wood. It just needs to be fairly stable and fairly rot resistant and fairly strong so that when I put through bolts through there, it won't crush. So this will be good. I'm going to glue it all together and make a chunk, and then I can shape it after it's glued all together. So the gel coat up underneath this old anchor pulpit looked kind of sketchy. There are a lot of cracks in the back, so I wanted to see what was going on, and I didn't find too much of interest. The wood underneath it is in good repair. The glass dips down right here, so this gel coat was like super thick, so maybe it was just a shrinkage crack. Shrinkage cracks, they got worse with time, but I'm gonna lay some combo mat up here and stabilize it and make sure it's good before I go any further forward. Any more forward. So my glue dried. I cleaned up my little plug here. Cleaned up my plug and started fitting it to the front of the boat, and I realized this is not what I want at all. The front, this part slopes down to shed water, I presume, but I don't want the anchor pulpit or the puck for the trolling motor to slope down. I want it to be level. So I'm going to make this over again. This one's going to go in the bin, and we're going to make another one a uniform thickness all the way. It's going to be 2 inches thick. It'll be a little taller than this, and that's going to make it easier for me to ferret out rather than trying to get it perfect. So back to the saw and the glue. So this transom and the teak deck that you saw me cut up for the swim platform came from my boat I cut up. It was a Grand Banks. It's a well-made boat, but you know, if you don't take care of a boat after 48 years, it's not worth fixing. So this also came from that boat. This is a wood called Yacal, Y-A-C-A-L, and it's what the Grand Banks people used to frame the boat. The planking was mahogany, and the varnished parts of the boat, the unfinished parts, were teak, but the framing is Yacal. It's hard as it can be, and it's almost rot proof. There was a little bit of rot in the framing. But when you cut up a boat, everything is bolted and nailed and screwed with a bajillion fasteners, and you really don't get much lumber out of it except for these straight boards. These were the boards that supported the 3 fuel tanks and the 2 water tanks. So I got maybe a couple of dozen of these straight 2x2s, and some of them are 3x2s. I'm going to cut these up and glue them together for the new improved anchor pulpit. These are going to be bulletproof. With the glue cured, I did a CAD template up front in the boat, and I got the glue up marked, and I'm getting ready to cut it out. Okay, the wooden plug is cut out, and the bottom corners are rounded over so it'll fit in there nice and snug. And I can't leave the front like this. I got to do something with it, and I don't want to appear to be indecisive, but I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'll start off by cutting the curve to match the glass. And if that looks funky, I can always cut more. I'm not really crazy about the way this cap slopes back, but that's part of the deal. I really can't change it. So I think for starters, I'll match this curve. We'll take a look at it and work our way back until we get something we like, if I don't like that. I set 2 C-clamps and bent a ruler around and scribed a line. Let's go cut it. So the little front cap thing is getting ready to go down. It is glass on both sides, and I'm going to set it in a bunch of thickened epoxy. Even though it's mechanically fastened, I don't have to worry about it later on. Okay. Well, judging from the squeeze out, I think I had plenty of sealing in there. And if I wouldn't have made this hatch bigger, I don't know how in the hell I would have got to those bolts, because it was just barely close like it was. But we did, so I did. And after the video was over, I put a couple of layers of glass on the top and around the edges and faired it, so it's forever. It's good. Now back to real time. With the boat washed, I was able to see a few more of these little cracks in the gel coat that I didn't see before. So you can't paint over them; they got to come back. So you got to get them out. You got to open them up. I used the little Dremel. And then they're filled with epoxy and then sanded down flush. And it usually takes 2 times because it seems like the epoxy shrinks a little bit. Then after the boat's washed, another sanding session. This little front piece took 4 layers of filler because of all the little weird corners and stuff. It was kind of challenging, and I probably still have 1 more yet before it's not perfect. Nothing I do is perfect, but before it looks really good. So jumping across town to the foundry, I finished sanded the T-top to my satisfaction and cleaned it up, and I primed it with some Bonderite, which is a treatment for aluminum. And then I went to the auto paint store and bought some stupid expensive primer specifically for aluminum, and it's been too cold and wet, so haven't painted it. I was kind of hoping to get this done also. So my original plan was to not put these in until I finish painting, but they got this little trimmer on the outside, so even if I get some paint on the very inside surface, it's still not going to show. It's still going to be good. So I'm going to shove the hose all the way onto the floor fitting, mark the inside of the transom, mark the hose on the inside of the transom, and then take the hose out, and that'll help me figure out how much how much hose to cut. I don't want to cut it too short. Hose was kind of pricey. All right, so I got it pushed all the way on the floor fitting, and I got it marked at the transom with some blue tape. So I'm gonna take it out now so I can put it in the through-hole fitting. Well, I gotta do the other side too. So I applied lots of caulk in the hole and lots of caulk to the fitting, and I have a Sharpie mark because in order to make the flapper line up right, one of the 4 holes needs to be on the tip top. So I'm getting ready to shove it in there, and then I'm going to go inside and tighten it, and at the same time I'm going to try to keep this Sharpie mark to the top. Both fittings are in and went pretty well. I think they're sealed up well. And now measuring from the bulkhead, can't really tell, this is a weird angle, but the hose needs to be 2 inches shorter than when it touched the transom. So I'm just going to go from my blue tape and come back 2 inches and cut them and get them in here and get them clamped. And that should be the end of the deck drains, except for sanding and cleaning. They're all covered with paint now. Okay, this one's a done deal. The hoses are on. They're double clamped both ends. I don't know if this is going to work. Let's see. Yeah, you can see it. Anyway, this one was tight. This one was ridiculously tight. I lost a lot of blood in my arm trying to reach around the corner, but I got it, I think. But I got a kink in my hose, so I'm gonna put another clamp on that kink to open it back up. Okay, I got problems. This fitting, this deck drain has the discharge, I think it points down at like 15 degrees. And it between that angle and trying to get to this straight, the hose wants to kink. And I can't, I got a hose clamp on it to try to straighten it. It's not working. I think I'm gonna have to find a 15-degree hose barb and put it in there to get it to line up better. Oh my gosh, because this was no fun. I'm gonna do it again, dang. I've been working on this shape here for quite a while, adding a little bit, sanding more, adding a little bit, sanding more. So finally, I hot glued this board to the side here and filled it flush. So this should take care of the top and the side surfaces. I'll have to work that a little bit more. So the question now is, will it come off nicely? And my camera's dead, so I'm trying to use my phone. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Let's do the other side. There are many good reasons to go ahead and permanently install the console. And there are many, many more good reasons to leave it out of the boat. But I'm ready to put it in. It's in the way in the shop. And I need to glass the bottom of it in before I can really finish the floor. So I'm going to put it in for keeps. Putting it in for keeps this time. I had it sitting on top of 2 garbage cans. It's not crazy heavy, but it's not light either. It's a really awkward thing to handle. But I was able to get it on the garbage cans, and I was able to get it into the boat, and I haven't dropped it, not one single time. Now I had it mounted before, I had it bolted before, but with no adhesive, just dry fit. So it needed to go back where it was the first time to line up with all the bolt holes. So I got it where it was before, and I marked the corners with pencil on the deck. And that way, when I moved it out the way and caulked, you can I could kind of get it back where it's supposed to be, because once you set it in all that caulk, you can't see the bolt holes. But I did pretty good, didn't smear the caulk all over the place. So the console is permanent now. It is mounted and adhered and bolted with 14 bolts, and it isn't going anywhere. I sure hope not. Tomorrow I'm going to put an epoxy fillet around the bottom. I would do it now, but it's supposed to get in the 30s tonight. So I'm going to hold off till tomorrow and sand it, and then it'll be one more thing ready for to spray with some primer paint. So I also spent a lot of time on mechanical this week, working on piping for the bait tank and the bilge pumps and all that stuff. Nothing's finished, so I'm going to hold off on the video until I get things further along. But I did make progress. So I wrapped this video up. This was like really easy doing all these little non sequitur items. I may start doing this from now on. So anyway, thanks for watching.